Good morning, Year 5s, and welcome to your maths lesson. Thank you to all those children who submitted their quizzes yesterday. I've been really proud of your progress that you've been making, and well done for watching the videos and making sure that you're following the examples and going through the sums with me. So today our learning objective is going to be to divide fractions. And now when we think of division, I know a lot of you think, oh, this is going to be really scary, but I'm going to show you right now, this is probably going to be the easiest thing you've ever seen in your life if you just listen and you follow with me, because it's going to be very simple. So before we get started, we're going to be doing our starters. I'd like you to pause the video now and to answer those quick 5 questions for me. Off you go. Great stuff, guys. Let's go through the answers. So the first one is going to be 4 times 9 is 36. Pure simply a multiplication, your multiplication tables. Okay, so 4 times 9, 36. Number 2, I've got 3/4 minus 2/12. So I'm going to write that out. 3/4 minus 2/12. Right. Rule number 1 is my denominators need to be the same, and they are not. So I'm going to look at the biggest number, which is 12, and I'm going to see if my smaller number 4 can go into 12 equally, and it can. So therefore, I'm going to make my bottom numbers, my denominators, 12ths. Right, so 4 times 3 is 12, and now we're going to make our equivalent fractions. So I'm going to say 3 times 3 is 9. And from 12 to 12, I did nothing. So I'm going to do nothing to my 2, and I leave that as a top 2. And I say 9 minus 2 is 7/12. Okay, and that is your answer, 7/12, and we leave it like that. Right, we have a subtraction sum. So 786 subtract 362. Right, 6 minus 2 is 4. 8 minus 6 is 2, and 7 minus 3 is 4. Nice and simple. There was no having to borrow or regroup. Good job, guys. I can see that you're doing really well with your starters, and that you're concentrating and focusing. Right, now we get to our negative numbers. All right, so minus 8 plus 6. Remember, whenever we are adding, we are moving on the number line to the right, and when we are subtracting, we move to the left. So minus 8 plus 6 is going to be minus 2, negative 2. Okay. As a rule, what we do is we put our number line, we go to minus 8, and we start, let's say, minus 8 here. Because I'm adding, I'm going to bunny hop 6 spaces to the right. So I bunny hop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I fill in all my numbers. Minus 5, minus 4, minus 3, minus 2, and that is the one I've landed on. So there I can write the answer. So that is a way to show you're working out for negative numbers. And the last one is a short multiplication. So let's have a look at that. So we're going to say 23 multiplied by 7. Right, 7 times 3 is 21. Carry the 2. 7 times 2 is 14. 14 plus 2 is 16. So 161 is my answer, and hopefully you have done really well with your starters. Remember, your starters are going back to previous learning that we've done in the weeks of year 5 and in year 4 and in year 3. So we're making sure we're revising those concepts all the time so that we're not losing that knowledge. Right, so as I said, we're going to be looking at our learning objective today, which is to be dividing fractions. So we're going to look at this pictorially. So we're going to look at it as a picture first, and we're going to try and understand how we get to the answer, and then we're going to look at the method. So first of all, when we say fractions can be divided by whole numbers, and that is what we're going to be looking at, fraction divided by a whole number. So we're looking at a third divided by 2. So if I have let's say a rectangular pizza, I divide it into thirds. Here are my thirds. So I cut my pizza up into 3 equal parts. Here is 1 equal part, 2 equal parts, 3 equal parts, okay? But when I'm saying a third divided by 2, what does this mean? I'm taking these thirds that I've divided up and I'm dividing them in half, okay, into 2 equal parts, because I'm dividing it by 2. So I would then divide it by 2. And so if you imagine cutting this pizza in half, I get something that looks like that. Right, so fractions can then, we look at the third divided by 2, and we say, then what is just this one piece that we have? How would we write that as a fraction? we would say I have 1, and how many do I have in total here? How many slices? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'm left with a 6. Okay, so this simply means a third divided by 2 really means I have half of a third, which simply means I have a half times a third, and then I can say when I have a fraction times the top numbers times the bottom numbers, and I get a 6. So don't worry too much if you haven't got this yet. We're going to do a few more examples, and then we're going to look at the method. And when you see the method, you're going to think, oh my goodness, Miss Fink, this is so easy. Right, so I have a quarter now divided by a third. So let's do this one together now. On your piece of paper, can you draw out a rectangle like I have here and divide it into quarters? Because remember, this bottom number here tells me how many equal parts I'm dividing my whole into. So on your piece of paper now, pause the video and divide. It doesn't have to be as neat as mine, okay? If you just draw it freehand, that's fine. It doesn't have to be equal. Just get down 4 little blocks so that you can see it. So do that now. Okay, so step number 1, you should have done. If you haven't and you need to pause the video and have a bit more time, please do so. So step number 1, draw the shape. Right, number 2, shade 1/4. Okay, so I'm going to shade 1/4 of this because this one here tells me that I've got one of them. Right, so let's just imagine shading as neatly as possible. Oh, you know what I could do? Let me see if this works. Let's be fancy today. Let's use green. Ta-da! Right, there's my quarter. Okay, so I have shaded 1/4. And the reason why I've shaded 1/4 is because I have 1 at the top here. So I've got my 1/4. And now it says divide my shape into thirds, okay? Because I'm dividing it into 3 equal parts. So can you take some lines, some horizontal lines, 2 horizontal lines you're going to need, and can you divide this shape now into thirds? So pause the video and have a go and see what you get before I go through it. Right, hopefully yours looked something like this. So I'm going to take that line. That's not what I wanted. Let's see if I can do that again. Right, that looks a bit better. 1 line. And 2 line, and can you see now I've taken the shape and I've gone 1, 2, 3. Okay, and that's how I've divided into thirds. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So I've divided my shape into thirds, and now I just want one of what those blocks are. So what would one of these blocks represent? So I'd have 1. And how many blocks now do I have in total? And an easy way to calculate that is if I count the top blocks, which are 4, and I count them going down, which is 3, and I can say 4 times 3, and that is, great job, is 12, okay? So a quarter divided by a third is a 12th, all right? So I've taken a quarter, there's my quarters, I've divided them into thirds. One of these blocks represents the 12th, okay, just one of those, right? Because I want to know how many I've got in total. And then an easy way to figure it out when I'm multiplying, I just times the top number times the side number, and that would give me my answer, okay? So that is doing it as a picture, right? Just to understand visually how we get to that answer. Now, steps to success, you're going to think, Ms. Fink, this is so easy, all right? So first of all, I'm going to leave the numerator the same. So my numerator, what is my numerator? Can you identify the numerator in that fraction? Great job, it is 2. So I'm going to put my 2 there. Put my line. So I've done step 1. Now I'm going to do step 2. Well, let me circle that rather, so then I can, it's a bit easier to see. Right, so step number 1, I've put my numerator. Step number 2, I'm going to multiply my denominator by my whole number, 11 times 6. Okay, so all I've done now is I've changed this divide sign into a multiplication sign, all right? And then I get my answer, leave my top number, and I say 11 times 6 is 66. And remember, I do not simplify, okay? So let me say this method again because it is so easy. Leave the numerator the same. Do not touch the numerator. Take the denominator And then instead of dividing it by the whole number, we're going to then change it to a times. Because if I go back into my pictures here, right, if you have a look here, I left the numerator the same. I got 1. And then can you see 4 times 3 is 12. And there you can see exactly the same as that. All right. So that is the method. How easy is that method? You don't even have to work with division here because you are actually using a multiplication step. And that's the step here that you're multiplying the 4 by the 3. Can you see this 4 represents this number here, this 4, and this 3 represents this 3 here. Okay, and that's why to get to the answer, we would times these two numbers to work out one of those blocks. And there it is. So I'd say 4 times 3 is 12. Leave the numerator the same. And hopefully that makes a lot of sense. Let's go through those steps one more time and then we can move on. So first of all, leave the top number the same, the numerator the same. And then times the denominator and the whole number together. 11 times 6, and then that is my answer. Simple as that. So easy. Okay. Again, I will put these steps to success in your files on Teams. So if you do need to refer to them, you are welcome to. Right. So let's go through it again. Okay. So first of all, leave the numerator the same. Don't touch it. Take these two numbers. And instead of dividing, I'm going to change it to a times sign. So I'm going to say 12 times 5. And leave my top number. 12 times 5 is 60. And that is my answer. Simple as that. Right, let's do this one together now. Can you please on your piece of paper write 9/11ths divide by 6? And I'll give you a few seconds to do that. And then we'll go through it together. Right, can you remember what is step number 1? Good, we're going to leave the numerator the same. So I'm going to leave the 9 the same. Right, what is step number 2? Super, I'm going to take my 11, divide by 6, and I'm going to say 11 times 6 now. Leave my numerator now, and 11 times 6 is 66. Hopefully you are feeling like this, very happy right now, and we are going to then move on. If you need a bit of help, go back in the video, rewatch it, see if you can make sure that you understand it, because now I'm going to give you the opportunity to pause the video and answer these 3 questions on your own now. Good luck. 3 out of 3, let's go. Okay guys, let's mark. So first of all, step number 1, leave the numerator the same. Take my denominator and my whole number, multiply them together. So 4 times 6 is 24. I leave the numerator the same. Hopefully you got that correct. Right, then we did 4 sevenths divided by 5. Right, so leave the numerator the same. And then instead of dividing, I'm going to times. So 7 times 5. And I'm going to get 4 35ths. Hopefully you are getting 2 out of 2 so far. And let's go on to the third one. Again, leave the numerator the same. Do not touch the top number. Multiply the bottom number with the whole number. And that is as easy as pie. Hopefully that makes a lot of sense for you guys. And you are now ready to look at the word sums. So the word sums, remember reading very carefully. It says Lee has 2/5 of a chocolate bar. He shares it with his friend. How much chocolate do they each get? Now, have a read of that and see if you can identify the key word there that would tell me that I'm dividing in the sum. How do I know that this is a division sum? What is the key word in there? So have a read and have a think. Great job. It's the word shares. Okay, if you're sharing something, it means that you're dividing it up. Right, and so Lee has it. So imagine Lee. Okay, Lee, here's Lee. And he has a chocolate bar that he shares with a friend. So how many am I going to divide it by? Right, so first write out your sum, which is 2/5 divided by 2, because there's 2 of them. And then we use our method. Leave the numerator the same, which is 2. And now I'm going to say 5 instead of divide by 2. I'm going to say 5 times 2. So 5 times 2 is 10. I leave that top number. And remember, we don't simplify. Right, see if you can go and have a go at answering this word sum for me on your own. Right, if you need to pause the video so you can carry on, please do so. Okay, let's mark. It says a man, so we have a man and his 4 friends. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So how many there do I have in total? 5, okay? This is where you need to read your questions very carefully. And if you need to draw out pictures, when I was your age, I used to draw a little stick man to try and help me visualize it. It says a man and his 4 friends, okay? If you even have to give them names, Deborah and her 4 friends. So there you can imagine Deborah and her 4 friends with her, and that makes 5, okay? So they share 7/9 of a pizza. So you've got to imagine that they've got a pizza. There are seven slices that are left, and they are dividing it amongst these 5 people. So what fraction will they each get? So you're going to say 7, leave the numerator the same, then take my denominator, times it by my whole number, and it's going to be 7/45. And that's it. And that's all you have to do for today. So you're going to log on to Teams now, guys, and you're going to try your best to answer those questions. And I hope you really enjoy it. Remember, don't worry about simplifying. Read your questions carefully, read the word sums carefully, and I will see you back here later. Have a wonderful day of learning. Bye.